How many of you have ever done bad on your SAT or ACT, even though you studied really hard for it? So today I'm going to be talking about how standardized testing is not a good way of gauging academic proficiency, and just overall how there's more negative sides to it than positive sides to it. So I think that standardized testing is not a good way of gauging academic proficiency because it is biased towards students of different backgrounds or minorities. Also, it is very stressful and causes a lot of anxiety for a lot of people who get testing anxiety, or just like most people in general. And also, it is a very big waste of money, and the money could be going towards something else that, the money is needed more towards something. So, it's biased towards students of different backgrounds or minorities because kids tend to do better in schools that are funded more, and schools that also get more money and stuff like that, which is usually schools that don't have as much minorities in the schools. So the schools that do have more minority students, they tend to do worse because they're not getting prepared for the tests well, and there's not going money or funding towards them. And then also, it's stressful for a lot of kids and students who have testing anxiety, just because how that happens is when you have anxiety about a test, it tends to stress you out, and then it makes your performance level drop. So when you're there actually taking the test, no matter how much you studied or anything, you're probably going to score low, and that's not a true reflection of the type of student you are, or how good your grades are, or your GPA or anything. And then also, the money that is spent towards standardized testing could be spent in way other places, and one of those places that I think that it should be spent is paying teachers better, because teachers do not get paid well at all in America. And the amount of money that is spent on standardized testing, which is roughly around $1.7 billion yearly, if they took that money and put it towards paying teachers better, the education level, America would score better anyways. So it's kind of just backwards how they spend a lot of the money on testing, but they don't spend the money on the people who are supposed to be teaching the students for them to do better anyways. So I think that standardized testing has more negatives than positives overall. Standardized testing has been around since 1838. That's the first year that standardized testing was ever introduced in schools in America. And this is according to the National Education Association. And it wasn't mandated until 2002. So before 2002, some schools had standardized testing and some didn't, but it wasn't a national mandated thing, so not everybody had it. But in 2002, it became mandated in all 50 states because of the No Child Left Behind Act. So the No Child Left Behind Act mandated it for everybody. Now everybody has to take these tests, which the tests that I'm talking about are the SAT, ACT. In Florida, it's the FCAT for when you're in elementary school. So basically all of these standardized tests, everybody has to take them, or a version of them, in every state in the country. And the reason that they did this is because they thought that America was ranking low versus other countries in terms of education scores. So basically in 2000, America ranked number 18 out of the 28 countries who were on this list of ranking of education. So we were number 18 in 2000. And then in 2002, the No Child Left Behind Act was mandated, which is when everybody started taking these standardized tests in America. And in 2003, our rank actually dropped to number 24. So overall, we started doing even worse because of the standardized testing, which is backwards than what they thought it was going to do. They thought it was going to make our education ranking higher, well, like lower in the score, so closer to number one versus these other countries. But it actually did the opposite and made us jump back a lot of spaces, actually. So, like, it didn't do what it was supposed to do, but even though, because of this, we still have standardized testing. Like, they never reformed it. So, basically, they created a worse issue than what we already had and then never fixed it. So, 60% of people agree that colleges should not use these test scores from standardized testing for admissions into college. Because I don't know if a lot of people realize, when you go to apply to a lot of colleges, it asks you to put in your test scores or have your test score sent over from when you took either the SAT or the ACT, which not a lot of people scored great on these. So if you're trying to get into a very, very good college and you have a good GPA, but then you have a bad test score, it could affect your chances of getting into the school that you want to get into, which is not fair because, as I said before, I don't believe that these standardized tests really gauge your academic proficiency, because a lot of people have really high GPAs and are very smart, but they do not test well for a variation of reasons, and that can really hurt their chances of getting into a college that they want to go to. So almost every kid in America has to take these tests. Like, almost every public school, you're going to have to take these tests at some point in your life, whether it's the FCAT when you're little in Florida in elementary schools, or the PSAT, ACT, or SAT when you're in high school getting ready to go to colleges. And this subject really affects me because I went to school my whole life in America, so I took all of these tests that I've named before, and personally, I don't test well, so I did not do good on my SAT. Well, I did okay, but I didn't do as well as I could have done versus what my GPA was, and this is very common. And also it affects me because my daughter will eventually be in schools within the next 5 years or so, and then she'll have to start this whole process with taking these standardized tests, which is just not something that I would want her to do. So I hope that they change it by then, or something's a little bit different. And also, the other thing is that a lot of teachers teach to the test. So basically, for the whole year, all they're doing is teaching what is going to be on this standardized test at the end of the year, whether it's in your math class, your reading class, science class, And it's very boring for the students, first of all. Second of all, it's repetitive, and you're just learning the same thing, and then every year you go up and you're just getting taught to the test instead of learning things that are probably more valuable to learn about for your life. And the reason why teachers do that is because teachers get paid better versus how their students perform on these standardized tests, which is not, I don't believe, is a good thing. So then getting bad scores on standardized tests can help you not get into not get into the colleges that you would want to get into. And so 80% of colleges in 2023 do not require test scores for admission anymore, which is a really big step towards getting rid of standardized testing in America, because if the colleges are not going to require it anymore, then the high schools will not feel like they have to give these standardized tests, which in turn, they'll stop paying these testing companies and will stop wasting $1.7 billion a year. And that money can go somewhere else, which in turn will help everything. So, today I told you why standardized testing is not a good way of gauging academic proficiency. And I defined the problem for stress and anxiety in students, and how it is harmful towards minority students, and how it is a huge waste of money. And I also listed some ways to solve these issues. Today, I explained how standardized testing is detrimental for many students in America, and we must do something to help the next generation of students so they don't have to go through this as we did. If we all work together, I know we can solve this issue and help many students in America.